China and Japan have a long history of cultural communication, where countless Chinese treasures cross the sea, ending up in Japanese hands. Many of these cultural relics are still revered in Japan today. That said, few if any in China know much about them. Let us take a journey through time to learn more about these unique pieces that are housed and protected overseas. An eye-catching Western architecture stands in the middle of Tennoji Park in Osaka, Japan. This was once the residence of Japan's famous magnate, Baron Shunsoi Sumitomo. The Sumitomo family donated this to the Osaka authorities to convert into Osaka's first art museum. Today, the museum is holding a Chinese literati art exhibition, showcasing over 200 paintings from renowned Chinese painters dating from the Ming Dynasty to modern times. Every piece on display is a showstopper. This is the work of Zheng Dianxiang, 16th century Ming Dynasty painter. The powerful strokes in this painting came from Zhang Dachan, who was rated as the world's top painter of his time. This vivid painting was one of Fu Baoxi's later works.
大作が多くて、その大作の中にたくさん筆の入りが本当に本物なので、息遣いとかも筆遣いがたくさん見れて本当に感動しています。
This is a piece by late Qing dynasty calligrapher Wu Changshou. Collector Tsuyoshi Hashimoto was inspired by Every year, the Tokyo National Museum attracts 1.5 million visitors from all over the world. As Japan's oldest and biggest museum housing mainly Japanese relics, there are a total of 114,000 pieces in their collection, of which 87 pieces are recognized as national treasures. Housing a large number of East Asian relics is one of the museum's key features, including a mummy from Egypt, as well as a host of other Asian artifacts. Chinese relics make up half of the 18,000 foreign relics housed here and are the pride of the museum. This is a painted wooden flower pot from the Yuan dynasty. The technique of mother-of-pearl inlay reached perfection in the Yuan dynasty. This dragon pattern is painted with an assortment of materials to bring out such a lively, realistic depiction. This is a celadon tea bowl from Longchuan Kiln during Southern Song times. According to historical archives, during the Ming period, it was owned by the shogun of the Bakufu government in Japan. The bowl was returned to China for repairs on the chipped section. But by this time there were no longer craftsmen that had the skill so common during the Song dynasty. The wooden box made to protect the bowl is now regarded as a cultural relic as well.
中国の素晴らしい焼き物にしろ染色にしろ書にしろ素晴らしいその文化が日本に伝わってきて、そしてここにこうしてあって、それをまた日本で大事にして、また言われもいろいろあったり、形も美しい姿、色も美しい。本当に中国の素敵なものが日本でこうしてあって素敵だなといつも思いますし、やはり素晴らしいですね、中国の文化。
Let us take a look at the Chinese ceramics that have captivated the Japanese. This is a masterpiece from the Tang dynasty. The lines of this white porcelain vase is elegant and a wonderful representation of this era. This bowl is also thought to have been produced sometime during the Northern Song dynasty. This three-legged bowl was made during the Ming dynasty, and is interesting for its use of colors. This is a basin made by the imperial kiln in the Ming dynasty. Ceramics of this period are loved by the Japanese for their colorful flair and opulence. These Chinese ceramics were donated by collector Tomosuke Yokogawa in the 1930s. Yokogawa, a construction tycoon in modern Japan, built the main roads in Japan a century ago, before most of them were destroyed in the 1923 Great Kanto earthquake. His son recalls his father gathering the family to inform them of his decision to donate his entire collection to the museum in a bid to preserve these cultural relics. In all, 1,100 priceless Chinese ceramics found their way to the Tokyo National Museum. Astonishingly, more than half of the Chinese ceramics in the museum were donated by Yokogawa. This is also the world's largest collection of Chinese ceramics outside of China. Next, let us head to the Calligraphy and Painting Gallery. Works from different eras await our viewing. This is the work of Wang Duo in late Ming, early Qing dynasties, famed for its strong strokes. This is a rubbing of a famous calligraphy stone tablet from the Song dynasty. The stone tablet is now kept in Qufu, Shandong province in China. These rubbings of stone tablets from the Eastern Han period were made during the Ming dynasty. Such complete and intact rubbings are extremely rare, and these pieces perfectly showcase the beauty of the original tablets. Ni Yuanlu was a court official and scholar during the late Ming dynasty. When the final Ming Emperor Chongzhen fell to the Qing in the mid-17th century, Ni committed suicide as a display of patriotism. Known for his calligraphy works, these were part of the collection owned by Japanese entrepreneur Kikujiro Takashima. Takashima managed Japan's largest paper manufacturing company then. He was an avid fan of calligraphy and epigraphy and spent half his life investing in collecting Chinese calligraphy and paintings. But how did he get his hands on such a treasured piece? We visited his descendant at this residence in Fujisawa City near Tokyo, where Takashima spent his final years. His eldest grandson, Koshiroshi Takashima, recounts to us stories regarding his grandfather's collection.
辛亥革命以降、中国のコレクター、お金持ちたちは焼くなり売るなり、あるいは中国から離れてどっかのよそへ亡命したりするために、お金稼ぐために売るわけですよね。でそれをもちろん中にいわゆる画商みたいな人がいて、買って売りつけるみたいなことをもちろんやったわけですね。で宋のコレクションっていうのはほとんどそういう方経由で。
Nara was the earliest ancient Japanese city that began having cultural exchanges with China. After Buddhism came to Japan via the Korean peninsula in the mid-6th century, many temples were built, and this city became the center of Buddhist studies. Today, the Nara National Museum still looks the way it did 120 years ago.
奈良国立博物館は、来年で開館120年を迎えます。この奈良という土地はですね、非常に古い都のあった場所でございまして、お寺ですとか、あるいは、遺跡などの多くの文化財が存在します。でこの奈良国立博物館は、そのような奈良のお寺、そして日本の、広くお寺ですね、その文化財を保護するために、作られまして、そのようなお寺から文化財を預かって、そして公開するという歴史を持っています。そのために現在でも奈良国立博物館は、仏教美術の専門館という形で、開館をしております。
The museum houses a large collection of Buddha statuettes and has a gallery built for showcasing them to the public. This 12th century wooden carving is one of the museum's prized possessions. This is a class held to train volunteer museum guides. Most of these guides are retirees and housewives, with a common desire to acquire skills so that they may present the exhibited items to Chinese visitors.
中国と古代の日本と中国のつながりというのを肌で感じていただけると思います。
筆談で2時間仏像館の方をお互いに筆談をしながらさせていただきました。書きながらでしたから。で中国は今簡体字になって日本の漢字が通じないというところもありましたのでね、それなんかも本当に楽しくて時間をかけてでしたけど、本当に非常に楽しく過ごしたことを今でも覚えています。
中国の文化も感じていただけるかもわかりませんので、ぜひ国立博物館に、ぜひ足を運んでいただきたいと思います。
Amidst the theme of Buddhism around the museum, There is a special gallery for showcasing ancient Chinese bronzeware. Consisting mostly of bronzeware from the Shang, Zhou, Qin and Han dynasties from the 2nd millennium BC to the 2nd century AD, there are 382 bronze holding vessels, musical instruments, weapons and even farm implements and stationery. Akiko Iwato is in charge of research on preserving the bronzeware.
こちらの青銅器館の一番の目玉、一番皆さんに見ていただきたいのは入り口を入りましてすぐに展示しておりますこちらの宝文湯です。ひげ飾りと呼ばれる装飾の他にですね、枝状にたくさん突起が作られております。これはすべて別作りで作られまして、くっつけて作られているんですけれども、これだけの多くの、突起装飾を施した大体紀元前11世紀から10世紀頃の正代末期の青銅器なんですけれども、この段階でこれだけのたくさんの装飾が付けられた器というのは、なかなか珍しいということで、今世界では大体3例ほどしか確認されておりません。
These priceless treasures were contributed by Japanese collector Goro Sakamoto in 2000.
それをおっかさんがですね、親父が立たないって言うんだね。まあ柱でね。それで妹も2人いたし、おっかさん私がいるから「お父っつぁん何とかして逃げよ」って言ってもダメだと諦めようって。それから這い出ってトタン屋根向こうに散らばってんのを持ってきてさね、親父にかけてさね、私を懐入れてんだね、引っ張り出してだね、それで私は今日あるのはおっかさんのおかげで。
Sakamoto's father passed away when he was 6. His mother raised all 10 children single-handedly. Sakamoto accredits the success of his antique business to his mother's teachings, to never accept defeat and to remain humble. In remembrance of his mother, Sakamoto's donations to various museums would always be in his late mother, Kiku Sakamoto. In 2002, the Nara National Museum started a bronzeware gallery specially for the 382 bronze relics donated by Sakamoto. Sakamoto acquired most of his collection around the late Qing period, when they were sold cheaply in antique markets and after being brought to post-war Japan. He recalled being able to attain a Shang dynasty relic like this for only 1,000 yen. The prices were a steal because replicas flooded the markets then. Even antique dealers had a hard time differentiating. With limited funds, Sakamoto dropped out of school and started self-studying to sharpen his ability in differentiating fakes from authentic relics. He would often approach university professors with questions in his quest to learn more. Over time, he accumulated almost every type of bronzeware one could find from the Shang, Zhou, Qin and Han dynasties. Now, Sakamoto has one final wish.
財団法人博物館作れて、私は子供には新種財政やらない、寄付したやつ、奈良でやったやつね、それをほいたら私ある品物がある、それを提供して、まあ根津さんか後藤美術館かのようなものを残して死にたいと思う。
Manpukuji Temple in South Kyoto, Japan, was built by Master Ingen, a Chinese monk from Fujian province. He came to Japan in the early Qing dynasty and was a pivotal figure in spreading Zen culture, along with introducing the Ming dynasty Sencha tea art to Japan. 350 years later, Senchado, or the art of Sencha, has blossomed across Japan as a national culture. Every mid-May, Manpukuji Temple holds a large-scale memorial service dedicated to Master Ingen. The most striking characteristic of Senchado is its use of Chinese-style teaware. The solemn ritual lends a Zen atmosphere to the proceedings. People come here to pay tribute to Master Ingen for bringing Senchado to Japan. In China, matcha tea art that originated from the northern Song times was a rare sight by the time of the Yuan dynasty. By the Ming dynasty, Sencha replaced matcha to become the way of drinking tea. Today, both forms of Chinese tea art are revered and practiced in Japan. This is one of the most respected tea masters in Japan, and he will brew the first pot of tea for today's rituals. For hygiene purposes and to show respect, it is mandatory to wear a mask when brewing the tea. Master Ingen was lauded by the Emperor of Japan several times posthumously. Manpukuji Temple has had 61 abbots in its 350 years of history, and over a quarter of them came from China. Matcha tea art emphasized format, and Sencha tea art on atmosphere. A relaxed atmosphere without dress codes or fixed procedures is a trait of Senchado. The tea art of Sencha in Japan is an extension of traditional Ming culture, albeit one which has continuously kept evolving.
"やっぱり我々今ある戦茶道という基本はやっぱり中国、もちろん神父さんから始まるいろんな深い何があるんですけれども、まあでも今やその文化として根付いているのは日本ではないかというふうに自負しております。
in this museum were donated by collector Eiichi Ataka. Eiichi Ataka was the second generation of a reputed merchant. Indulging his love for collecting ceramics, Ataka even established an acquisitions department in his company. In 1977, the company went bankrupt and his collection were taken over by creditors. Subsequently, these treasures were donated to the Osaka authorities. We bumped into Ataka's staff at the gallery. 83-year-old Kunitaro Ito was the first curator of this art museum. He would frequent the museum and affix his gaze on a single item. This exquisite northern song vase from the Yaozhou kiln with its olive oil color and peony motifs.
中国の北の方の河北の方の、西安の近くで揚州窯というのがあるんですが、そこのものなんですけど、いろんな役の揚州窯で作ってますけど、この形がこれ世界で1点しかないんですね。
What's the connection between Mr. Ito and these ceramics? In 1955, Ito joined Ataka's company. His first assignment was to visit an art exhibition on orders of his boss.
やはりね、鳥でも何でもね、果物でも最初に目にしたものが親だと思う習慣があるでしょう。だから美術品にしてもね、最初にどういう美術品に出会ったかっていうのがいつまでも印象に残るわけですね。
This first piece of ceramic artwork that Ito had set eyes on influenced him his entire life. Ataka delegated Ito to acquire this piece, but they had to wait 10 years as the price was way too steep. In the 1960s, Ataka and Ito started acquiring pieces from Europe when the Japanese economy was booming. This ceramic was their first overseas purchase. The seller was Chu Yanzi, a Chinese antique merchant living in Switzerland. The duo flew to London after a price was agreed upon. Mr. Ito collected this treasure from an underground safe at the bank.
でこれが入った時は本当に喜ばれた。で私が初めてヨーロッパ行ってこれを実際手に持ってきたから、これ31キロあるんですね。風体入れるとね、それを一人で今だったらとても持ってこれないですね。重いんですよ。私の座る隣の席を開けてもらってここへ置いて、で私はこうして、当時アンカラジ経由ですからね、何十時間もうこうしたままで、アンカラジで泊まる時も私は降りないで一緒にいました。
Huahua, or regulated decoration, is a type of kiln burning technique used to present glazed three-dimensional colors on ceramic. It's this process that is able to bring out the trees and birds on this piece of pottery with stunning detail. Based on its glaze and pattern, this octagonal vase was produced by the official kiln of the Southern Song dynasty. At the London auction, beginning at 10 million yen, its final bid rose to an astonishing 100 million yen and landed in the hands of Chu Yanzi on orders from Ataka to acquire it at all cost. This is a piece from the Suzhou kiln from the Jin dynasty. It's 35 centimeters tall, which is very rare amongst this kind of vases. This is a piece from the Jingdezhen kiln from the Ming dynasty. It has the most complicated design amongst its peers. The white porcelain had to be coated twice with yellow glaze before the artwork was carved and sent into the kiln for a final round of firing. This incense burner is from the Yaozhou kiln in the 12th century. Measuring 21.5 centimeters in diameter, this is the biggest incense burner from Yaozhou kiln. There are only 70 ceramic works left from the Ru kiln of the northern Song dynasty. There are only 5 four-legged oval basins like this in the world, of which 4 are housed in the National Palace Museum in Taipei. This colorful plate is also a Jingdizhen piece from Ming times. It is a sight to behold with its exquisite intermingling of lychee, pomegranate, peony flowers and green leaves.
アタカコレクションっていうのは1点ずつ集めたから、まあ多少問題のあるものもありますけれども、ほとんどがまあ粒寄りのものであったということは言えようかと思います。
To Mr. Ito, Ataka was more an art connoisseur than an entrepreneur, with a zealous passion for artworks that he had set his eyes on.
アタカさんっていうのは何でもいいんですよ。言ってみれば、とにかく最高のものならいいね。それを見た瞬間にいただきますと言っちゃったんだから。だから関係ないんですよ。とにかく自分が美しいと思ったものはパッと手にする。おそらくね、予算がいくらでもあればもっと広がったと思いますよ。
Ataka's stubborn attachment to quality art pieces is evident in the story behind this vase. In terms of shape or coating, this is indeed top of its league amongst Yuan dynasty vases. When it turned up at an auction in Tokyo, antique dealer Goro Sakamoto immediately ordered his staff to acquire it at all cost.
池田がうちの店のものにとことんまで書いてた。旦那とことんっていくらの値段ですかって若者とことんっていうのは最後の最後のね値段はとことんって言うと。
Sakamoto won the bid at around 80 to 90 million yen for this beloved piece. On hearing the news, Ito made his move.
私にこうご中心ということで聞いてくれた業者に悪いけどもすぐに追いかけてくださいと。値段は1億5000万。私が責任持ちますから。その時は誰も相談してないですよ。 で追いかけていったけども、もう相手にしてくれない。
Helpless, Ito reported this to his boss Ataka, who was in Switzerland at the time.
今1億5000万で追いましたけど、相手にしてもらえません。じゃあ予定を早めて帰りますって言うんですね。で予定を早めて羽田へ、その時羽田でしたから羽田へ着いてその足でその業者のところに行ってもう直談判です。確か1億8000万かな、1億9000万か。
ほら売らないって言った。そうしたらアタカがそのニュースを聞いてスイスのチューリッシュから飛行機で飛んできた。それで弟子売れ売れっていうんでね売っちゃった。まあこっちも金がねえ。まあしょうがねくだらんことが書いてしまう。
Until this day, Sakamoto regrets this decision.
でその後五郎さんは安く売った安く売ったって何を安く売った8000万で売ったもの1億8000万か9000万で売って何が安く売ったかって言いたいんですけどね。まあ物の値段っていうのはそういうもんです。でその後これに類するものが31億になってますからね、2年か3年前に。だからその時に私が判断した1億5000万というのは本当に買いなんですよ。
In 1977, Ataka filed for bankruptcy on a failed attempt to penetrate the petroleum sector. He lost his collections along with his company. In his later years, Mr. Ito would push Ataka on his wheelchair to see some of his lost collections. Ataka once said something that Ito has remembered his whole life.
命がけで集められたコレクションがもうとにかく人手に渡ってるんですからということをね、よく人から言われるんで、それを伝えたんですね。だからこの車椅子に乗ってて、ふっとね、私の顔を見ながらね、じっと見て「どうして?」って言うんですね。で、どうしてって、だってさ、当然でしょっていうことを言うとね、コレクションって誰が持ってても同じでしょっていう、もうこれが一番印象に残ってますね。
In 1994, the 93-year-old Ataka passed away. Some of his collection and remaining relics continue to be displayed at this museum. In Tokyo's Roppongi district, surrounded by a vast concrete jungle, an exhibition on Chinese art is taking place. On display are collections from Sumitomo Collection, including a unique national treasure. Without a seal, this piece is reputed to be an original of Southern Song painter Yan Shiping. In this leisurely painting, a young shepherd boy is removing lice for his friend while herding buffaloes. This painting was a treasured piece of the shogunate 500 years ago. It attracts countless admirers each time it is placed on display. The museum staff showed us another masterpiece. This is a piece by Buddha Shanren. Made up of 22 paintings, museum guides turn a page every few days to showcase another side of this brilliant piece. Yako Jitsukata specializes in Chinese paintings, particularly in late Ming and early Qing works, and insists that this is an original from Ming painters. Collating works from painters living in the late Ming, early Qing dynasties is also one key feature of the Sumitomo collection. This is a masterpiece from the Grand Master of Chinese painting, Shi Tao, depicting a waterfall breaking through the mist. It is hard to find such a large piece of Shi Tao's, and shows the painter's exceptional skills in producing a piece like this. This is another masterpiece by Shi Tao. In July 1699, a friend illustrated the beauty of Mount Huangshan to Shi Tao after freshly returning from his travels. Inspired, Shi Tao painted this from his memory of visiting Huangshan 30 years earlier. Injecting his own creativity, he arranged all the famous peaks of Huangshan on this painting and added miniature human figures on the mountain, making it quite an eclectic piece. The collector of this piece is Kenichi Sumitomo, eldest son of bronzeware collector Baron Shunsoi Sumitomo. At a time when replicas were abundant and people understood little about artists like Shi Tao, Kenichi Sumitomo did his research and collected these rare pieces. Painters that refused to take in official roles with the new Qing dynasty injected philosophical outlooks in their paintings. This moved Kenichi Sumitomo. Today, these painters are held in high regard in both China and Japan.
この善光という人はですね、中国の中でも鉱山、その風景に非常に影響を受けて山々を通さしてそれを胸中で熟成させた山水を描いたということで知られております。水晶の結晶のようなそういった山々がここに見えております。善光の作品というのは針山水、水晶山水なんても言われる、その典型的なものがここに見ていただきます。
These precious collections are displayed once every 2 to 3 years. In our last visit to the Sumitomo collection, the museum staff showed the crew a piece that had yet to be revealed. Shi Si, Shi Tao, Zhang Zhang, and Bala Shanren were known as the 4 great monks of the late Ming dynasty. In this painting, Shi Si captured the magnificence of Dabaoan Temple in Nanjing, China, infusing a surreal dimension to the painting and accentuating a mystical effect. The use of colors in this painting is especially interesting. A blue tone is mixed with reddish-brown base before adding black ink, bringing a subtle undertone of solemnity to the painting. 10 years ago, Sumitomo Collection started restoration work on this painting. Today it is presented in exquisite condition once again.
これを掛け軸の軸を挟んで巻き込むというものなんですけれども、桐の一木作りでして、金具を一切使っていない、こういったところも木を使っていたり、この開閉に用いる蝶つがいですね、こちら見えます。これは鹿革を使っておりまして、全て文化財に対して優しい素材を用いております。これもまたもう日本の職人芸の一つとも言えるようなものです。
Perhaps these protective tools will be viewed as an inherent part of the artwork in the future. Frankly speaking, the Chinese treasures found in Japan are able to be preserved so well and cared for primarily because of the higher status they enjoy there. In a full year of interviews for this project, the crew met numerous collectors and experts who gave a unanimous answer. As an island nation, the people of Japan hold great curiosity towards all foreign cultures. The Japanese hold great respect for the early civilization of China and its various passed on for successive generations to enjoy and be inspired by.